Good evening, candidates, and good evening, audience. As a member of the League of Women Voters of the Holland area, which is hosting this forum, I'm pleased to see you all here, taking your civic duties seriously. What better way to get to know your potential school board members than to hear them talk about the issues that you care about? My name is Nikki Arnshorst, and I am the moderator for this evening. Deborah Williamson is our timekeeper, and Lynn Berkey and Ellen Like will be helping out. We're all members of our local league, and none of us vote in the West Ottawa School District. The League of Women Voters is a national, nonpartisan organization that promotes political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League does not support or oppose any candidate or political party. It will take a position on issues after careful study and consensus. The League has a long history of organizing and running forums. Our rules are consistent and fair. These rules were sent out to all the candidates as part of their contact information. Let me begin by first introducing the candidates, and then I will read the ground rules. We have Christopher Cox, and unfortunately, Christopher Cox has come down with some kind of little something, and he will be unable to participate tonight. He did send a statement, which I will read when it comes time to read the opening statements, the 2-minute opening statements. And then we have Edward Denave, Catherine Lebster, Douglas Mann, and Lynn Rutan, who is an incumbent. Okay, the forum rules. This is a forum, not a debate. It is an opportunity for the candidates to articulate why each one is running for office. The order of who speaks first, second, etc. will be determined alphabetically by last name, and it will rotate thereafter, and it may get mixed up, so let's, I'm sure the candidates will remind me. Each candidate will have an opening statement of 2 minutes. After that, they will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. At the end, there will be a 2-minute closing statement. Time limits will be observed strictly. Deborah will hold up cards indicating the remaining time, ending up with stop. That's clear and concise. Audience questions may be directed to one or all the candidates. Each candidate will be allowed to answer each question, even if it was directed to a specific candidate. Questions may not be personal or inflammatory. The moderator reserves the right to disallow a question if deemed unacceptable. In addition, I may ask for clarification or simplification. I also reserve the right to interrupt the candidates if their responses are personal attacks or if they stray from the subject. So I have to listen also. Questions from the audience are to be verbal. The moderator, I will call on audience members. Lynn will carry around a microphone. And another thing about the microphone, as our videographer has said to the candidates, speak right into it. Not only can we hear, but it gets recorded because this will be on our website later. If a written question is preferred, we have a league member, Ellen, will provide a card and pencil, and she will bring the card up to me to ask if you're shy. We ask the audience to refrain from demonstrating support or non-support of a candidate. No campaign signs or apparel are allowed inside the forum room. There is a table out in the hall with campaign literature. No cameras or taping equipment is permitted other than authorized by the league. And as we said, Steve is taping this for posting on our website later. As a courtesy to everyone, please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices during this forum. And finally, candidates are invited to remain at the site to talk with the audience afterwards. Okay, let me begin with a statement from Christopher Cox. First off, I would like to begin by apologizing for my absence tonight. I was very much looking forward to speaking with everyone. I would also like to begin by applauding each of you for being here tonight. It is so crucial that communities actively participate in the education of their children, and by being here, it proves that you care and are ready to tackle that challenge together. Education is a team sport. I'm running for West Ottawa Board of Education because I care deeply about this community. I've spent my whole life here and am a product of the West Ottawa school system myself, having graduated from there in 2013. I feel I am now in a very unique position to be a tremendous asset to the board. As a recent graduate of West Ottawa myself, I am still very familiar with the issues that matter most to students. In addition, I now have the educational and professional experience that give me the tools to make prudent financial decisions. In December, I will be graduating from Grand Valley State with a degree in finance. While in school, I've worked for UBS Financial Services as well as Ameriprise Financial. Understanding that budgetary decisions are a big part of serving on the board, I am confident that I am best fit to assist in producing a prudent budget and maximizing our resources. Thank you again for everyone for being here, and I apologize I'm not present to answer any further questions directly. Please feel free to grab one of my business cards and contact me with any questions you may have. I would be more than happy to answer them. Best, Christopher R.M. Cox. So thank you, Mr. Cox, and we wish you a speedy recovery. Okay, and now moving on to opening statements with the candidates that are here. Mr. Denave, you're next.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ed Denave, 49 years old, a 20-year resident of this area. My wife and I relocated here from the East Coast, New York, New Jersey area. That would help. We came here for a couple of reasons. We came here for a job, but we also came here because we like the area, and we continue to like the area. We've been members of the West Ottawa School District for about 11 or 12 years, and we feel very strongly that a strong public school district benefits the entire community. So I'm looking forward to participating in this board, trying to utilize some of the strengths that I have professionally in the careers that I've held to try to assist the board that I think has been effective already in maybe getting to the next level to try to have a cooperation with the community like we've never seen before. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Lebster.
I was born and raised on the east side of the state in Bay City, the youngest of 7 children. My dad was a small business owner. My mom was a teacher. By the time I came along, number 7, she was home and then became a professional volunteer. I went to Essex Garber High School, graduated from Delta College and Michigan State University. I then did my student teaching my teaching degrees in English and social studies. And I did my student teaching at Flint Northwestern High School, which set me on a career path to be really good at teaching certain kinds of students. I then taught at Lake Orion High School, where I was head of the English department. I then taught at Livonia Churchill High School, moved only because I needed to move for my husband's job, actually going back to school. We moved to Holland in 2004, and I am now a professional volunteer. I won't list them all for you right now. I have 4 daughters in the district right now. I have 1 at the elementary school, 2 in the middle school, and 1 at the high school. So I'm a very invested parent here. Besides professional volunteer with those 4, I think I'm a unpaid Uber driver as well. I've learned, because I have those 4, it truly takes a village, and what an amazing village West Ottawa is. Having the background of being an educator and a parent, I bring a balanced insight to this position, or would bring a balanced insight to this position. I see things both ways. And one point I really want to make is that none of us running here will be addressing these issues alone. She says stop.
My name is Doug Mon. I'm a senior applications engineer at Thermotron Industries. I've been there for 37 years. I've been married to my wife Julie for 41 years. Yes, folks, she's put up with me for that long. Those of you that know me know she's an angel. I've lived in West Ottawa School District for 35 years. I have put 4 children through West Ottawa, 3 girls and a daughter and a son. They all graduated, thank goodness. I've worked on a number of task forces, in addition to being on the board for 14 years. I'm seeking the position again because I feel I still have a lot to offer the district. I worked hard when I was on the board before, and my strong feature is that I'm an advocate for those that have learning disabilities. I served on those committees, resource teams, almost the whole time that I was on the board before. Some of my hobbies, I love camping. I coach my church's co-ed softball team. We don't win very often, but we have fun playing. I've been accused of spoiling my grandchildren. I make airplane swings for my grandkids and for the kids at church. And I hope you won't hold it against me, but I've been a lifelong Detroit Tiger and Detroit Lion fan. Thank you.
I'm Lynn Rattan. I'm just completing a 4-year term on the board, and I am seeking a second term. So I'm one of those terrible incumbents that you hear about. I've been involved with West Ottawa in many, many roles over the past 28 years. We moved here in 1988, and I think I've done almost everything in the West Ottawa district in one time or another. I'm a parent of 2 high school, my sons graduated from high school here. I have 5 grandsons, 3 of whom are at Harbor Lights now. I've been a PTA president. I've been that professional volunteer too. PTA president, volunteer coordinator. I co-chaired a bond issue. All of those kinds of things I did and loved doing in the West Ottawa system. In 1994, I went to work for the system, went to work for the district as a school librarian at Mac Bay and at Harbor Lights, and I worked there until 2008. I currently work part-time as a children's book reviewer for one of the major national library journals, and that's really fun too. I've had a lot of professional and volunteer roles that I think have given me some wonderful experience in collaboration, in leadership, and in organizations. Locally, I've done President of the United Way here in Holland. I've served on the local and state boards of the League of Women Voters and done many a forum in my time, as Nikki is doing. Professionally, I've served on my state library organization, and at the ALA, the American Library Association, I've served both on process committees like strategic planning, but I've also gotten to do the fun stuff, the book and award committees, including the John Newbery Award a few years ago, which was a wonderful opportunity. I'm still an active volunteer with the district. I've been a baggy books person for a long time. And I have to stop.
We mean it. Yes, thank you. Okay, since we began with Mr. Cox with the opening statements, we will start with Mr. Denave with questions. And the audience, any? 1.5 minutes for the questions. Anyone? Okay, here's one. Remember, speak right into the tip of it there.
I'd like to have you explain, especially for a couple of you that I don't know, what exactly has been your weekly, day-to-day, monthly involvement at the local level in the schools themselves and how you're involved?
So when we moved to the area, my students, my children, attended 3 different types of schools. They started at a faith-based school, and then they moved to charter school, and then ultimately wound up at West Ottawa. I think that path actually helped us in understanding the real benefits of the West Ottawa School District, and having come from the outside of the district and outside of the area, you're subject to what information is accessible to you. And I think one of the areas that I'm hoping to help this board going forward is getting our message out a little bit better, because some of the data that was available for the schools wasn't all positive. And because of that, somebody new to the area doesn't have that experience. They don't have 3 children or 35 years that have gone through, and they know all the great things about the school. You know only what you can glean from the area. Some of the data was a little bit sketchy, and not all the data was good. So I think because of that, it took us a while to figure out where the best fit for our kids was, but ultimately we've chosen to put them at West Otto. My daughter's a junior there currently. My son just graduated and is off at college, but we've been very involved in volunteering in many different capacities at the school since they've been there.
Thank you. Ms. Lebster.
And then the question is daily, well, weekly involvement in how are you involved?
Yeah, instead of just being somebody who walks in that has no involvement whatsoever or connection to a district.
Oh, okay, okay.
What is your involvement? Yes.
Well, we've been involved with West Ottawa since our 10th grader was in kindergarten. And actually even before, because we did West Ottawa preschool. Thank you. So
We all watch out for one another.
Right. So since preschool for my 10th grader, I've done, like Lynn was saying, I've done baggy books. For the last 7 years, up until this year, was in charge of the only fundraiser at Waukezu is their fun run. Kind of a big undertaking. All the PTA money comes from that. I did that for 7 years. Baggy books, popcorn mom, field trips, library, helping in the classroom when the teacher emails and says, who can come tomorrow morning? Almost always me. And now I've been able to be at Harbor Lights, planned the 8th grade dance, planned the 6th grade party. It's exciting to be at the high school now, working concessions, fun things like that. So yeah, day to day, a lot. I have 4 of them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mon.
I'm not quite as involved as I used to be since all my children have graduated. I do have a granddaughter at Lakewood. I attend whatever function she has there as often as I can. I was even for a while, when she was there, a member of the PTA. Like I said, I've been on the board for 14 years before. I was involved in one of the early task forces we had under Rosemary Irvine that helped do demographics and figure out exactly what we wanted to do as far as bond proposals, and that was a long time ago, back when I had hair. Nowadays I go to almost all the football and basketball games. A lot of you probably see me there. I work the concession stands, even though I don't have anybody in school anymore. I attend almost every board meeting, even though I'm no longer on the board, and just to keep up with what's going on. Other than that, I just take care of my kids then when they need their help, and I help a lot of kids at church too. So,
Thank you. And lastly, Ms. Rutan.
I still am very active with the school, as I said a little bit earlier. I still volunteer on a weekly basis. Still doing baggy books. I'm active with my grandchildren and attend a lot of their functions and help out where I can. I still am doing a secondary book club with my colleague Cindy Dobres. We've been running that for 15 years now, and it is after school for kids in grades 6 through 12. So I think it's important to get around the district, and I really try to do that. I try to find a way to be involved in all of our buildings if possible. And you know, it's hard sometimes when you're a board member because you don't want them to feel that you're checking them out, that you're evaluating them. But it's also really important to be able to be there, to get the feel of the building, to see the teachers, to talk to the kids. And I think that's very important. And I think that has helped me, the volunteer activities have helped me in that way, because they see you as baggy books instead of somebody who comes in, as a threat, I think. So yeah, all of that I think is really important. And I wish we had more baggy books people.
Thank you. Okay, next question. Our audience? Anybody in the audience? All right, here's one over here. The league has prepared some questions in case, but it's always nice.
I'd like each candidate to respond to the following question. In your judgment, what are the primary two functions of the school board?
Okay, the primary two functions of the school board, and this time we start with Ms. Lebster.
Two primary functions. Well, ultimately, we hire the superintendent, who's already in place. So, setting goals for the district. So sorry. Hire the superintendent. Set educational and fiscal goals for the district. If you take educational, fiscal, kind of sums it up. Everything comes back to student achievement. We as a board monitor all of it, big picture, meeting with individuals or in committees for the smaller picture to make sure student achievement happens. Bottom line.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mon.
In the past, I've always thought the board should be transparent. We hire a good administrative staff. We need to let them do their job. But we still need to be involved in the district and be visible for when people have questions. We need to help make decisions on the financial stability of the district. We need to be fiscally responsible and maintain a good, strong reserve fund, because you never know when something's going to happen that you're going to need the money.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Rutan.
I think probably the most important goal, it is hard to prioritize them, but I think one of the primary goals for us is the setting of goals for the district. Everything's tied to that. Everything revolves around those goals that you set. We evaluate the superintendent now on those measurable goals that we set. And that was one of the changes that we made in this last 4 years, was to set goals that really are actually measurable. And we look at ourselves as a board, we evaluate ourselves on what we have done over the year, and we look at our superintendent. I think one of the things that education hasn't done as well as we should have as an organization, not just us, but teachers and education in general, is that we've not been very good about how we've done evaluation. And I think the movement right now, and what we're trying to do, is to not just to say, oh, I think this guy's done a great job, but to have real examination of what has happened. Has he met the goals that you have set? So that's a primary thing, and it drives what you do as a district. Another very important goal, of course, is our fiscal management. And I'm kind of lumping evaluation and goal setting together because those two pieces are critical for a district. And fiscal management is extremely important. And what people do and how they manage a district is increasingly important right now. We have very little funding. How that is managed is going to make or break a district. I think there are districts around us who are now on a watch list because their fund balance has gotten to a point that it is dangerously low. In West Ottawa, we've tried to put money into the classroom, into instruction, and that's what we want to do.
That's the end. And lastly, Mr. Denave.
So I think the two primary functions is, like Kathy mentioned, that, hiring the superintendent, we have a superintendent in place, I think we have an excellent one. I believe it's the board's job to support that superintendent in all of his activities. And then the secondary one, I think, is to elevate the district to such that it's not the fallback position for a lot of students, it's their first choice. If we've read some of the articles that have come out recently in the Sentinel about schools of choice, and I think that the district has lost a tremendous amount of students, very good students, that have decided to go to either one of the charter schools or transfer to Zeeland. And many of those things, I believe, are because of a lack of good information that gets out. There's a lot of great things that happen in our district, but many times that message doesn't get circulated outside of those walls. So I believe as a board, we need to elevate that message outside. There's an awful lot of families coming into this community as jobs continue to flow in with companies growing. And when those families come in with students of school age, where are they going to choose to go? I think if our message is clear and our message is abundant about the benefits of this district, they'll choose the West Ottawa district over some of the other choices that are available to them.
I guess you're allowed.
Well, last week we had a candidates forum for the 89th district, and one of the candidates said that he had interviewed, not in this school district, but in other school districts, school board members, and I guess I'm directing this to Mr. Mann, because you've been on the school board before, and Mrs. Rutan. They said because of national and state mandates, that the school boards really don't have a lot of things that they can do. You're restricted by the mandates, and you don't have as much control maybe as you used to have. Could you comment on that?
Okay, thank you. And we will start with Mr. Mann for this.
I think he's wrong. I think members of the school board have a lot they can do. We are, as the board member, I saw our excited as the supposed increase in funding from the state occurs, but what they don't tell everybody is that most of that increase is going to cover things like health care and retirement funding and all that. But a strong board and an insightful board will continue to introduce programs that make the district appealing to both people within the district and outside the district. And I think West Ottawa's done a fantastic at doing this. We've got the IB programs, we got advanced placement, we've got phenomenal drama in athletic and other extracurriculars. So the board has a lot they can do in directing and guiding the district in the right way.
Thank you. Ms. Rutan.
I agree with Doug in that regard. There are lots of frustrations, certainly, for the board. There are many, many, many things that we don't have control over. Our funding is a particular one. Lots of federal and state mandates in terms of testing and the way that we do business, the way we evaluate. Those kinds of things are always coming at us. Curriculum changes that happen every couple of years. It's a moving target, and it's a very frustrating one, I think, for all of us that are involved in the process. But board has a very important role to play, as Doug says, because we set the tone, we set the goal, we guide the district in the direction we believe in. In West Ottawa, we've seen this huge change in our district since 1988 in our makeup. You know, when we started, we were less than 25% free and reduced lunch. And we're looking at a district right now that has a proven 57%, and we really believe that it's higher than that. We think it's probably 64%. So what we choose to do and how we choose to do it, how we choose to serve our students, and what direction we take philosophically, That's a huge, important role of the board, and I think it makes a big difference.
And Mr. DeNave.
You know, I think like in any role, you're limited only if you want to be limited. I think the board can do a tremendous amount setting the tone and the tenor of what happens, even if we can't influence every aspect of what goes on in the classroom. I don't know that that's really our role, but if we can support and we can bring a message and be big advocates for the district, not only by what we do in a boardroom, but what we do in our day-to-day activities, how we raise our kids, how we interact with our neighbors, and be available and be supportive. So again, I think that you're only limited if you choose to be, and we can choose not to be.
Thank you. Ms. Lebster.
I'm going to agree with the whole panel here. I actually heard the interview that gentleman was speaking of last week, and they were interviewing a couple of superintendents from the Detroit area who had been, or not superintendents, board presidents, I'm sorry, from the Detroit area who had been on for quite a while, and they spoke of the frustrations that Lynn just spoke of. And again, you're limited by what you allow yourself to be limited by. We have tremendous people here at West Ottawa. We have to report data, so we have to test. We want to know how we're doing. We want to know how we're doing compared to the rest of the state. So some of those mandates coming in are okay. We have to do with them what we know is best for our students at West Ottawa. We have to make it work. We're not going to make those mandates go away, so we have to make them work for us, for our students. How can we use those tests to inform our teaching? How can we see, well, this group of students did this well, this group of students did this well. There's a gap here. What are we going to do to stop that? What are we going to do to bring that back together? So some of those mandates, they're frustrating because we want local control. But to a good degree, we have it because what we do with those mandates is up to us.
Thank you. Okay. We have another question.
For each of the candidates, what in your background qualifies you to manage and oversee a district of this size, both from long-term planning, financial planning, and organizational planning? What is your experience in doing those functions?
So this time we start with Ms. Rutan.
I've had a wide range of activities that I think really have assisted me in all of those situations. First of all, professionally, I'm a librarian and a school librarian, and if you ever want to see somebody that can juggle and stand on her head at the same time, that is a school librarian. She has to keep a lot of tasks going, while things like student teaching in the classroom has got to come first. So in the rest of the time, you are running a small public library. Tasks have to be organized, they have to be managed, and you have to be able to keep track of everything that you're doing. Financially, I run that school library. As a volunteer, I've managed some fairly large situations. The United Way Board for Holland was a very, very interesting and learning activity for me, because in that situation you looked at budgets, not only of what the United Way was bringing in, but also all of the other agencies. I think my national experience at the American Library Association has also helped me look at strategic planning, long-range planning, and the ability to look at a wide range of needs and requests.
And Mr. DeNave.
So my path has allowed me to enjoy two separate careers. Initially in the corporate world, I held a lot of leadership positions both in engineering and in sales and business development for a large automotive supplier here locally. And you learn, the last job I held there was I was responsible for a $200 million business unit with over 1,100 people employed in that group. So you learn a lot of things about how to get things done in a very hierarchy-based, rule-ridden group. And then 4 years ago, I left that world and I started my own company. And that's a whole different set of circumstances. You find out very quickly that there's not a guy to do every job that there used to be a guy for. And there's not a woman who can help you with all these different assignments that you have. When you look around and say, well, this place is a mess, somebody needs to clean it. That's you. You're the one who has to do that. So because of that, it's kind of the art of triage, and you have to learn that there are many aspects that need to be done. And I think on a school board, you're going to run out of time before you run out of issues. So how to prioritize those quickly, how to realize where we can make the greatest impact, how we can spend our resources most wisely is something I have a fair amount of experience doing.
Thank you. Ms. Lebster.
I love Ed's word triage. That is what I do all day, every day, I think. Having 4 kids, but as a teacher, going back to like what Lynn was saying, as a teacher, you have to prioritize what is important in this moment, in the next 2 hours, in the next 2 weeks, for the semester, for the year. You have to be organized. You have to be able to adjust to individuals, to what your students need, to what their parents need and want, to what your administrators need and want, to what your board is expecting. So you have to have the insight to do that. Have I managed a multi-million-dollar corporation? Absolutely not. But there are multiple committees on the school board, and I really see my strengths in curriculum and the student services and or marketing side of the board, or those parts of the board. So I think my time's up.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mon.
Well, I think my day-to-day job has provided me with a strong background and basis for both finance and scheduling. My job requirements, I analyze customers' requirements and bid and determine what equipment is necessary to do the job. Some of this equipment can be in the neighborhood of $300,000 to over $1 million. And I'm responsible for doing that and controlling the cost of that and determining what the cost will be before we build it. So I understand fiscal responsibility and how to handle that. Due to the amount of business we do, the day-to-day scheduling of what needs to be done and how to approach the duties that require more than an 8-hour day. So I have to be able to schedule my time and work efficiently at what I do. And I think I have been able to do that, otherwise I wouldn't be where I'm at for 37 years. So that's where I feel I'm strongest in. And of course, I really am an advocate of children with learning disabilities.
Thank you. Okay, another question. Okay, here's one. And we will start with Mr. Denabe.
What do you see as the biggest issue or challenges facing your students, and what, as a school board member, can you do to assist those students?
Okay, Mr. Denabe.
I think the biggest challenges are how prepared are they when they leave the school. There's a lot of metrics that we can use to decide what's prepared. Some of the easiest ones would be how ready are they for college. I propose that there's other metrics we should be using as well. How ready are they for the workforce? I don't think, and I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of the students going through the Career Line Tech program, We have a rotational program in our company where they come through and work there, and then we've hired some of them both as summer interns and as full-time employees. But those kids their best path wasn't to go to college. So what are we doing to make sure that that's a win as well? So some of the data is easy to determine, some of it's a little trickier. But we have to make sure they're prepared for whatever the next phase is that they want to pursue. And sometimes that's going to be college, sometimes that's going to be the military, sometimes that's going to be going directly into the workforce. You know, one of the young men who works for us was relaying a story. He actually went to Zeeland High School. And he said he sees his friends of his, their parents that he hasn't seen for a couple years, and they say, "Oh, where did you go to college?" And he said, "Oh, I chose not to go to college. I'm working over here." And he's met with that's too bad for you. Well, you know what? He's extremely productive. He's saving money to be out on his own. He's working. He's contributing member to society. That's a victory too. So I think we need to prepare him for both of those things.
Thank you. Ms. Lebster.
Again, agreeing, but I would say it depends on the student. We don't have a student or a student type here in West Ottawa, which is part of the beauty of West Ottawa. We have students who are learning English. We have students who are taking, I serve on a committee at the Community Foundation that we read scholarship applications and grant scholarships, and I read kids who have taken 14 AP classes. Kids are learning English, kids are taking 14 AP classes. We have to teach everyone. So that is the challenge here, but it is also one of the biggest strengths of our district. One of the neat things we have going here is the PRIDE system that's been instituted at the high school. PRIDE, they get a PRIDE score real quickly. It means prepared, respect, integrity, dependability, and effort. They're actually measured on those things. So they get a PRIDE score in every class besides their A, B, C, or D, or the worst. Not just, are you getting all A's? Are you prepared? Are you ready for the world? Like Ed was saying, we need to prepare citizens, not just students.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mon.
The district used to have, I think they still do have, a motto that says, we want our students, our graduates, to be career and life ready. And I think we are doing that. We can do it much better. It's very obvious when you start looking at the recent MSTEP and SAT scores, and you see the achievement gap, or the gap between the general student population, English language learners, the environmentally disadvantaged. There is a large gap there, and we need to struggle, or we're struggling to bring that gap and narrow it, because all students deserve to do and achieve the most they can. Our staff is doing a good job at that. We still got to improve. The district as a whole has good programs, and we need to continue to improve on those programs.
Thank you. And Ms. Rutan.
It's hard to quarrel with any of that. I would absolutely agree. But as Kathy says, I think it depends on our student. You know, if you talk to one of my kindergarten baggy books kids, their biggest challenge is getting their shoes on in the morning. You talk to a middle school kid, and it's wet table he's sitting at lunch. So there's an enormous range of needs that our kids have. For us, a challenge is to be able to meet all of those needs in the best possible way. For educators in general, and for West Ottawa in particular, I think our biggest challenge for our students is to prepare them for change. What it looks like right now is not what it's going to look like in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years down the road. we need to give them the tools. And I think that's our best gift to our children, to make them curious, to make them adaptable, to make them problem solvers, to make them ready to get the foundation that they need to go on and adapt to the changes that we see coming. And as educators, we've got to be there too.
Okay, thank you. Question. Here's right here, then. Right in front of you.
Holland is the largest community in the state that's not within a community college district.
Up
There's
to
a bill in the legislature that would allow each school district to vote to join a community college district. We can't join now because we don't touch one. This bill would open the door and allow us to. It would require a millage, though, of about 1.5 mils. So would you support West Ottawa voting to join a community college district to the tune of 1.5 mils?
Okay, this one we'll start with Ms. Lebster.
Well, I would definitely have to do some more research. I don't know enough about that bill, but I am a graduate of a community college. I got an associate's degree at Delta College before I went on to Michigan State University. My local community college at the time was Delta College, and they still do, and I think GRCC may as well. They gave a scholarship to the highest GPA in the class, and it went down until someone took it. That was me. My dad said, "Oh, thank you." I had planned to go away for 4 years, and my dad said, "No, you're taking that." And I'm thrilled that I did. It was a great experience, and community colleges are invaluable to high schools, both for dual enrollment purposes and an additional place to send students who may not be quite ready to go off, but need that community college experience. So my tendency would be to say yes, but I don't know enough about it to say definitively.
Thank you. Mr. Mann.
I'm going to say yes. I've put 3 children through 4+ years of college and another one through a couple of years. I did not have the opportunity or the option of having any of them go to a local community college. They would have had to go either to Muskegon or to Grand Rapids. So they ended up going to other colleges like Grand Valley, Cornerstone, and there are a lot of kids out there that at 18, they are not ready to move away from home. If you look at the number of freshmen that don't go back, it's because they are not mature enough at that time to handle being away from home. So I think a community college in this area would be a great asset, and I would be willing to go for $1.5 million to support that and to have that available to maybe my granddaughter or somebody else's children that don't have the financial capabilities of sending them somewhere else.
Thank you. Ms. Rutan.
I have to say I don't know. It's something I would really have to think about. I value community college a lot, but I think we live in an area where there are a number of community colleges within fairly easy reach. We do have Grand Valley, we do have GRCC, we have Muskegon, which is not very far away. I think it would depend. I would have to balance that $1.5 million against what else we were trying to do at the time. Money is so scarce for us. There's so many needs for us. And I think I would have to take a more researched look at it before I would commit definitely to doing it. I do value community college, I really do. But I also think that there's a lot of opportunities right here in a fairly small geographic area within 30, 35 miles. We have a lot of options. So I think it's something I'd have to take a look at.
And Mr. Ganave.
You know, I think the easy answer is yes, you'd support that, but I tend to agree with Lynn. There is a value that we have to place on it, and I would go back to answering a question, what is the problem we're trying to solve? If there is a true problem, if we could identify that there is 12% of the students that are not going on to college because there's no reasonable alternative for them, well, then that makes that decision a lot easier. But if we find that there's not that many students who fall into that category, then from a value standpoint, you would say, man, about 1.5 mil maybe could be used in a different way. So I would say, you know, theoretically, yeah, let's give them as many options as we can. But to Lynn's point, maybe that option already exists, and there's not that many students that are missing out on that opportunity. So I'd want to evaluate that a little bit further. I think it's a great concept that we would need to just do a little more exploration on.
Thank you. Okay, another question. Okay, it's time for a league question. Oh, you have another one? All right, we'll wait.
School finance is very important, obviously, because it takes money to make the school go round. We're all faced with declining enrollment. Two of my areas of interest are school choice and charter schools. And I see them as taking students away from West Ottawa. Yet I'm wondering if you have any good idea about how to get those kids back to West Ottawa to make that student count up as opposed to going down.
Okay, and we'll start with Mr. Mon.
Declining enrollment is a problem. We've been facing it for a number of years. And the best way I can see is to market the advantages that the district offers. The IB program, when I was on the board, there was only one other place in the state of Michigan that even offered a program like that. And that is a phenomenal program that allows students that want to really achieve to achieve. Our AP programs are great. We need to market those more. But we also need to market to the student that isn't the educational whiz, that we offer a curriculum that will get them career ready, life ready, to do something maybe other than going to college. And we need to market that to everybody within the district and outside the district.
Thank you. Ms. Rutan.
Well, that's exactly one of our board goals, is to attract and to retain students, because that's one of our major concerns as a board, is that flow of students out of our district into the charters and to the neighboring school systems. So we've been thinking very hard about it and talking about a lot of things on the board. One of the major things that we're all talking about, of course, here tonight is marketing. But marketing is one of those words. You know, we talk about how we've got to market better, we've got to market ourselves. Well, marketing is a tougher thing than you would think these days. Newspapers are seldom read. I mean, when did you last see that circulation on a newspaper go up? So getting your message out, getting your message out is a lot trickier than it really used to be. And so on the board, that's one of our big pushes this year, and I assume it's going to continue to be for quite a while, is what do we do differently in terms of getting our story out? We really do have a great story. We're also looking at some proactive things as well. You know, very often when you get a student started in a district, their tendency is to stay. So if you can hook that family in and you get them as preschoolers, you get them as kindergartners, and you make that experience a really good one, that's something we need to be really focusing on as well.
Thank you. Mr. DeNave.
I think as we look at this, if we believe that we are the best advocates for the school, we're probably mistaken. The best advocates for our school and our school district are our students. And the current students, the recent graduates, they're the ones who have the most compelling case. So I think we need to look at that and give them an opportunity to have a voice. Again, like I mentioned, we came into the area from outside of this area. And where do you get your input? Where do you get the data? You get it from the realtor who takes you around. So I think there should be a concerted effort to work with the real estate community to make sure that all of the current West Ottawa data is available to them. You get your research from whatever company you're coming to work for, the Director of Human Resources. We should make sure we go and target a lot of the major employers. They're the ones bringing in students and families from outside of the area. So how do we get them all of the most recent data and the data that we want them to have? You know, data is a funny thing. You can look at it a couple different ways. So we have friends who have students at Zeeland, and they said, well, we have a higher percentage of our kids who go on to college than West Ottawa does. Okay, I spent a lot of time in business development and marketing, right? West Ottawa is a bigger school. So I'll go to the other side of the argument and say, yeah, but we have more students who have gone on to college. And then you can use something else that says, okay, maybe there's some level of school that, whether it's Forbes or somebody else, determines what the top schools are. Well, we can draw that same thing and, okay, let's talk about the top schools. We've had more students go to those than you
Okay,
have.
thank you. Okay, another question.
I'd like everybody's opinion on the fact that our legislators last week passed a law that would require retention of third graders if they're not reading at a third grade level. Your opinion?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Rutan.
Oh boy. How long have we got? I am very opposed to that bill for a lot of reasons. It's badly constructed, it is vague and indistinct. It assumes that schools have never thought about that problem. Gosh, can you imagine? Our third grade students are falling behind. We need to do something, and we need the legislator to tell us that. There's a lot of issues with that bill. We looked at it extensively in our Instructional Services Committee meeting this past week. Part of the problem is that all of the pieces haven't been filled in at this point. We will be obligated, mandated, to assess our students according to one of three measures. And at this point, those measures have not been selected. Yes, that's only one of a number of problems with that particular bill. I will say that I understand the legislators' good intentions. They really do want those students to be addressed, their needs to be addressed, their educational requirements to be really paid attention to. The reality is, though, that it needs to be done far younger than third grade. And at West Ottawa, we are starting at young fives. We're looking at kindergarten. We're looking at all of that.
so
I know,
much.
I see the sign. It's really important.
And I think you said before, how much time do you have?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. DeNave.
I think it's a good example of good intentions and bad execution. I think everybody in the room would say that it's important that third graders can read. But like Lynn mentioned, I think how many of us feel is everybody develops on a slightly different cadence. And to hold back a student who's struggling in third grade because of maybe some maturity issues or something like that, who may be excelling in fourth grade, would probably be a mistake. So I tend to agree that you need to look at that not at third grade, but in kindergarten and first grade. Are they on the right trajectory? And the people who know that the best are the people who are teaching them every day, not somebody in Lansing. So, the same way maybe big people feel about big government, people far away have a hard time dictating what's going to happen here locally. So I think if we trust our teachers to do the job that they're qualified to do, they'll see the early warning signs of that and maybe get those students some extra help early on. We don't want to leave those students behind, certainly, but I think mandating something like that might be a mistake.
Thank you. Ms. Lebster.
This is an example of one of those frustrations we were talking about earlier, where the state tells you something that you have to do. We have to figure out how it's going to work for us. Of course, we've thought, yes, they need to read by 3rd grade. And of course, we've put some interventions in place to help those kids. But it's most frustrating that the state says this, and we don't know what those 3 measurements are. Similar to the state says, in June, you have to have your budget set, but we're not going to tell you how much money you are going to get till October. So those are frustrating things, but we do our best with them. This is going to make it difficult to differentiate kids. All these 3rd graders. And the other thing about the bill, it doesn't hold them back. I mean, in 4th grade, if they're still not reading at the 4th grade level, they just get to go to 5th grade. And now what? We've given up on that kid? What does the state say? So that's frustrating. One of those frustrations that I cannot wait. I cannot wait to be able to talk with other board members about this. I want to talk to teachers about these kinds of things. I want to be able to have the big picture of the district, and because I feel, and I have to stop.
Thank you. Mr. Mon.
This issue's been out there for 3-4 years at least. They've been threatening to do that. And mandate holding back a student because they can't read to a particular level at 3rd grade. And I think we all up here agree that each student is different. You can't mandate, and this is typical of what the state has been doing lately. They mandate to the district on what to do. They don't tell us how to do it. But the people that should be dictating it and coming up with the process is the district itself. We know what our students are capable of, where they are lacking. We've been doing it for years, studying it. And it's not just wave the magic wand. And if they're not reading to level at 3rd grade, and you hold them back, they're going to be up to level then. Or the threat of that is not going to help that student improve. It's what we implement at the district level to make sure each child is learning to the best of their ability.
Thank you. Okay. Another question? And we do.
As a current board member listening to all that, I'm just really mad right now. Because this is what we deal with. It's very frustrating. So why don't we lighten it up just a little bit? If I may, I would like to ask each of you, what is your favorite thing about West Ottawa? And what is one thing that you would like to see maybe looked at, changed, researched differently, a positive and a negative that you could share with us?
Okay, and this time we will start with Mr. Denabe.
So I would say my favorite thing is that we have the level of diversity that we have. And here's why. I've had a chance to employ some West Ottawa students, recent grads. And I would tell you that they are more well-equipped in the workplace than their peers coming out of different schools, especially a school that has a very narrow cross-section of America. West Ottawa does not. It has a very broad cross-section. And because of that, those students are very well prepared to be in a manufacturing workplace where there are people below the poverty line, where there are people who are wealthy. I mean, when you get out on a manufacturing floor, it's not about who drove a BMW to work that day, right? It's who can do the job. And they sort that out really quickly because they've had to deal with that through high school. They understand the huge differences in race, in ethnicity, in religion, in monetary position. So I think that's probably one of my favorite things, that we have that and we should embrace it. The other thing, the thing that I would like to see most changed, what I hit on before, is we need to have a better message, and we need to get that message out more clearly. I agree with Lynn, it's not as easy as putting an article in the newspaper. People don't really read that as well, but I can think of a few ideas on how we could get those messages out and let the right people deliver them, and a lot of times that's going to be the students.
Thank you. Ms. Lebster.
You didn't write his paper.
Right. I actually sent my oldest daughter, having moved here in 2004, so now we're at 2007, and I'm sending her to first grade. She went to kindergarten at Waukezu, but then we were handed this lottery ticket, and I sent her to Black River because everyone said, well, of course, I was new. First child, we sent her, obviously, we brought her back a year later, and for multiple reasons, and diversity was a huge reason. My daughter has friends that look like her, friends that don't look like her, friends who have lifestyles like hers, friends that don't, and that is enormous to me for an education of a whole person. So here in West Ottawa, we can educate the whole person. Something I'd like to see us do is, and obviously we're trying to do it, I don't like the word close the gap, close the achievement gap, because it sounds like we're going to bring the top down. So I think we have to maybe take that out of our vocabulary when we're speaking to do this marketing that we want to do. We want to bring everybody up. We have kids that are doing amazing things. And that word needs to get out.
Thank you. Mr. Mon.
Well, I think I have two things that I think are great about the district. The first one, as has been said before, is the diversity within the district. I think my children benefited from this diversity. They learned at a very young level how to deal with different ethnicities, different lifestyles, and I think they're, as a whole, much better prepared when they left here because of that diversity. The other great thing we have is a phenomenal staff. All the teachers, or a majority of the teachers within the district, are concerned about the achievement and getting every student that they come in contact with achieving at the best of their ability and helping them to maybe exceed that ability. The thing that we probably lack the most is, and everybody's already said it, marketing. We need to market the district a little bit better. And I have do marketing once in a while at work, so I have a little bit of background in that. It's not easy, as Lynn said.
Thank you. Oh, you just skated under that. Okay, Ms. Rutan.
There's so much. I really love the people. I love the teachers. I love the staff. I love the students. I love how committed they are to each other. Like I said, I get into the classrooms a lot, and I talk to my old buddies in the, in the buildings, and they're amazing to me. They care. They know their kids. They know their kids now already, and it's just October. And they know their kids, and they would take them all home if they could. They do everything they can, and I love that about our staff. I love how committed they are to what we do here at West Ottawa. There's just lots of great things. There's a number of things I would change, I guess, and they've all said marketing, so I'll let them say that. I agree, I do. But I get to say something else. And that's a sort of a personal thing. I would love to get our kids up and moving. we test so much. We have so many mandates, you know, we have literacy blocks, and we're losing movement with our children. And I think for a lot of our kids, that ability to focus, I think it would be greatly improved if we could find more ways to fit physical activity into our day, every day in lots of ways. It's not just a football team. I think it's a lifestyle for all of our kids.
Thank you. Okay. Questions? We're running out. Okay, I'll ask a league question, and it's interesting, many of the questions you've asked I've crossed off and crossed off and crossed off, so I'm going to do a little bit of an outlier. We get letters, and some of our feedback comes from teachers, and sometimes the teachers talk about the school board, and one thing some teachers say about some members of the school board is they don't feel they get enough respect. They don't get enough respect from the school board members, and how would you show respect to a teacher? What is a way that you would, because some are not feeling this, so, and I have no other information, but how would you show a teacher that you respect him or her? And we will start with Ms. Lebster.
This question was made for me. It is one of the things that so important that teachers not just feel respected, but feel supported, and actually supported, not just a pat on the back, not a you're doing a great job, but what can we do to help you? You need to do this, this, and this, and this. We've told you that. What do you need help with? And I do know that the district at this point is, I met with Jerry Page a couple weeks ago, and they have some things in place to help actually have in-classroom coaching. But teachers don't want to be, patronized, and I don't believe anyone on the current board would do that. But I know teachers want to have more than just words. They want actual support in the classroom, because there's so much put on teachers. I have a lot of teachers with my signs in their yard right now because they know that I understand what they do on a day-to-day basis. They are juggling so many balls at the same time. So how can we not show them respect?
Thank you. Mr. Mon.
One of the things that I've done in the past and would continue to do to make staff feel accepted and feel appreciated is to continually go out and meet with them not in the classroom, but at events like football games, baseball games, basketball games, things like that, where you're in an environment that is not classroom related. So they get to know you, you get to know them, and continue to support them in any way it's possible. Giving them the correct tools, helping them analyze or giving them the data they need to understand what the students need to be able to achieve better.
Thank you. Ms. Rutan.
It's a hard question, I think. As a board, you're in an oversight role very frequently, and a lot of times, if you have people who don't have freedom during their day, they're not able to get into the classroom. They're not able to get around to the schools. So very often, a board face is a face that many teachers don't know. It's not a meeting point for us as often as it should be. I think we all make our attempts to get there, to talk to people, to show our support and our respect and our appreciation for our staff. But I think it's something we need to work really hard at. I understand. I think they're hearing at a national and a state level, we've done nothing but beat up on teachers for the past 5 years. Nobody can say good things about teachers of late, particularly our governor, unfortunately. And I think that trickles down. It is a a feeling that settles in. And it's going to take a lot of work and effort for all of us, I think, to keep telling them how much we do appreciate and respect them. And we've got to find ways to do it.
Thank you. Okay, and we have
I think,
you, Mr. Denavi. I know. I'm checking my list here.
no problem.
Yes.
You know, I think we should be starting from a position of respect. I think teachers deserve that. It's the outlier that gets all the press, unfortunately. But in general, I think, you know, the vast majority of the teachers deserve our respect. But, you know, we all know the person who gives you that while walking away, hey, let me know if I can help. You know, that sounds better than it actually is because it's not actionable. You know, what I'd prefer to hear and what I try to do myself is engage that person and say, I have 1 hour a week that I can give you. How would you like me to spend it? See, that's actionable. They can say, what I would really need your help on is this item. And it may only be that 1 hour, but it's what we call directionally correct, right? It's moving it in the right direction, as opposed to a bunch of people offering an empty, big promise of how can I help, or of some, let me know if I can help. Well, of course, they need help. So let's give them something a little bit more actionable, and then they can actually receive some of that help. And I think that will show them that we care about them, but we also are willing to give.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions from the audience? No? Okay, I will ask another question here then. And it's kind of a two-part. What should a principal do about a teacher who is not doing his or her job well, and what contractual obligations does the board have in protecting the teacher's rights? And that would go to Mr. Mon. Press your button.
That's a difficult question. I know the state has mandated that we evaluate teachers and now administrators with certain criteria. And it's difficult, from my opinion, to be able to evaluate by a set of guidelines. Each teacher does educates in their own style, and as long as the students are achieving, I think that should be the main criteria. How do we protect the rights of the teachers? I think they're pretty well protected right now. And that, I'll be honest with you, there's some that probably shouldn't even be in the classroom. A majority of them do belong in the classroom and are doing a good job. And so, I don't know, I guess I couldn't say exactly what you could do to protect them any more than they are right now, other than to give them tools to do a better job.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rutan.
Having been in a situation, you know, having been a teacher and having gone through the roller coaster of evaluations, and if we want to talk about a moving target, teacher evaluations is something that's moving so fast that you don't even have a chance to draw a bead on it. The state has changed in the last 3 years in about 4 different ways that teachers are to be evaluated. It is one of those things that is mandated by the state. We have to use a specific form. We have some to choose from. We haven't got a lot of wiggle room when it comes to evaluation. Evaluation is a tool. It is one thing that we definitely should be doing with our teachers. But I hope that whatever we use, and I think our principals have had a lot of training in this aspect of late in West Ottawa, is that evaluation is a professional improvement. It's there to help our teachers. It really should not be used as punishment. It should be used because teachers go into teaching because they want to teach. They want to teach well. Let's give them the help and the assistance they need if they need it. Let's give them that coach model instruction that we have right now in our classroom. Let's give them a mentor teacher to work with. let's use an evaluation as something to help them do a better job and to feel better about what they're doing. Sorry.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Denabe.
I think we should always apply a student-first criteria. So if the center of all our decisions are how is the student benefiting or not benefiting from that situation, we'll generally make the right decision. This is an area where I think that schools could learn a little bit from the corporate world. Many corporations have a pretty good system. And if they assume that the reason that there's a problem the first time is because there's been a misalignment in understanding. So if we, and like Lynn said, if we assume that every teacher has gone into teaching because that's what they love and they want to teach students and they want to help students grow, if there is a teacher that's struggling to communicate or struggling to perform their job, I would say the first choice is to make sure that we've aligned that correctly. Have we given them the resources that they need? Do they understand the criteria that they're being judged to? Many times people are doing something that they don't understand is not what the metric or what the gauge is that they should be doing. So you address that first, and then you try to reassign if necessary would be the second. And give them as many opportunities to show that they're in this for all the right reasons.
Thank you. Ms. Lebster.
One of the things that I feel is a strength in West Ottawa is that most of the administrators are on the same team as the teachers, and the teachers feel that that administrator is on their team, so we don't have a us versus them. Of course, the administrator is the one that has to do the evaluation. Someone has to do it. The state says we have to do these evaluations. The administrators do that. But in talking to teachers, I feel that they feel most of the administrators here are on their team, so they're not looking to pin them down. They're looking to help. If someone, I guess I'm a person who gives people the benefit of the doubt. I'm assuming you're a teacher, you're trying to do well. But we all know that there are those outliers that may have given up because it just is too hard. But there are too many balls to juggle. At that point, I'm not sure what the procedure is. I will admit I'm not on the board, and I don't know exactly what that procedure is. In West Ottawa, I have not memorized the contract, so I don't know. But I believe the people we have here are keeping students and teachers' best interest in mind.
Okay, thank you. And this question, any questions from the audience? You've had a chance. Okay, we'll do a couple more from the league's list here. How can our district challenge and inspire all students, including those who may be gifted? Ms. Rutan.
Well, I think we have a lot of programs in place, I think, that really answer that question. We do differentiate instruction across the district, so teachers model their instruction, they design their lessons so that they can address individual needs of individual students. And that happens very much at the elementary level as we see that. As they move along through middle school and into high school, there are increasingly difficult and challenging classes and opportunities that are there. We certainly have IB program, we have a multiplicity of AP programs, which are a wonderful option for both students and parents because they can earn college credit as they're moving through high school. So there's a lot of opportunities as they do increase and as they move along in age. And I think that definitely at our younger levels, we're really trying to incorporate that into the classroom as we address every student and what they need.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Denabe.
As I mentioned before, we started out at a faith-based school and then moved to a charter school. And it was when my son was going to be a freshman that we decided to move into West Ottawa. We handled it a little bit like he was applying to college. And we went to all of the different local high schools, and we basically interviewed them. And it was clear at the end of our 3 or 4 visits that West Ottawa was the right place for him. But the reason, a lot of that was because when you got into the details, they offer more AP classes than any of the other schools do. They have an IB program that the other schools do not. And they have more dual enrollment students than any of the other schools. That's something that most people don't realize. And that's when we, kind of go back to the message. That's a way that we need to get that message out. We asked the questions, and we asked the same questions of every school. And when you get the answers, you realize our gifted children have as much opportunity, if not more opportunity in this district than they do in any of the other schools locally.
Thank you. Ms. Lobster.
That is 100% true. We have, well, I'm going to reiterate here, we have IB, all the AP. I have 4 different daughters. They're all very, very different. West Ottawa is the best place for every one of them. My oldest will be an IB candidate next year. The next one, would that be for her? No. We can offer kids more than any surrounding school. Our message, that message is not getting out. We have great accomplishments elsewhere. It made the paper in the spring. Look how many first-generation students just graduated. And that's phenomenal. But that's what made it in the paper. It didn't say these kids that were going to these colleges. It didn't say what our top-level students were doing. So both are equally important, but the message isn't getting out for what West Ottawa can do for your high-achieving student. And we are doing phenomenal things for the high achievers.
Thank you. Mr. Mahan.
Boy, everybody said about anything else, or anything that I could say. I just have to reiterate, we offer phenomenal programs for the gifted, everything from Spanish immersion in the elementary on up through the IB programs, the AP classes. I had 4 kids that went through the district. This district is second to none. We offer everything that any student could want, even those students that are not going to be going to the college level. We are trying to prepare them to do the jobs of working on the shop floor, building stuff, because we need those people as well as the engineers to design the products they're going to need to manufacture. And I think as a district, we are doing a very good job of that, and we need to continue to improve, though. We can't rest on our laurels.
Thank you. Audience, there's a question.
What can be considered a follow-up question to the ones that you guys just asked. All night, I've heard about how wonderful the AP programs are and how we do all this stuff for all of our gifted children. I don't have a gifted child. I have a child that's in special education. I want to know how you guys are supporting them, because I know that I have had to go and say, my child is not getting what she needs. I have had to walk into a school and be told that my 3-year-old that can't walk has to walk from one end of Pine Creek all the way to the other end. And the only way that I could get that changed was to go to the board. So I need to know what you guys are doing to support my child.
Thank you. And we will start with Mr. DeNave.
So, tough question, right? So I think that clearly that's a priority. It's obviously a very high priority for you. You're close to it. it needs to be something that we understand, not only as a board, but as a district, as a group of people, that there are people who have special needs. And sure, we talked about the high achievers, that was the question. This question is very different. What are we doing to make things more comfortable and more accessible for all the students? So I think, yeah, walking clear across the building isn't something that's required. We have to figure that out. Hopefully that was something, or that would be something in the future that could be handled prior to coming to the board. You know, to me, there's some steps that would be in place, and those steps obviously failed you. So it seems like our greatest role would not be to intercept that question and take it on, but to find out where in the process that should have been dealt with and try to help maybe give that person a little bit more either authority or a little bit leverage in making that decision somewhere upstream, because that's really how that should have been dealt with, in my opinion.
Thank you. Ms. Lobster.
Obviously, I can't speak to your specific, 'cause I don't know the people involved that made it so that you had to get all the way to the board. But I have a sister who is a staunch advocate for her special needs son. He's now finally a senior in high school, not here in West Ottawa, on the other side of the state. But I've heard Mama Bear has to go into the IEP and make sure she's heard. And I think some of it is the mounds of paperwork and whatnot. And I do not want to make an excuse, because there is no excuse. We have to look at every single kid. How do we teach that child? Whether that child is, whatever their disability is. If they're learning disabled, if they are non-walking, if they are just learning English, all of the above, because there's a kid like that too. So I guess Mama Bear has to be listened to in the IEP as opposed to just talked to. And I would hope that we could do that here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mon.
I've mentioned a number of times that I'm an advocate of, sorry, the voice is starting to go. I'm an advocate for the special needs child. One is because one of my children is special needs, has a learning disability. And there was a struggle to get things going, but once we did, the district did a good job of getting him through high school, and actually helped get him through college. So there are things set up to help the learning disabled child or the child with a disability. And when I was on the board, that was one of the committees I sat on. And even though they wanted me to take on other committees to expand my knowledge, I stuck to that committee for the years I was on the board. And if I'm privileged to be back on the board, that was one of the committees I would ask to be on again. So sometimes things fall through the cracks, and hopefully we can get the right processes in place that it doesn't require a board to step in.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Rutan.
Well, obviously, something didn't go at all well with your child and your child's situation. I don't recall this situation, so I'm assuming it was a previous time. That's at least good to know. I think we've had some major changes in our administrative levels that have dealt with special ed. If that's of any consolation, I think we have made a 180-degree change in some of our processes, and that's important. What's really important, though, is that we all understand that we have to do this together. So we need you. We need your child's interests. We need you. We need the teachers. We need the principal in that building. And we need you as a team working together to make it happen for your child. If and I agree completely with Ed in this respect, that to come to the board is a last resort. It should be, back in that other situation. So I would very much hope that that situation doesn't exist anymore. If it does, I think it's something that we need to pay very close attention to. It's not a situation that is acceptable.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I think we'll head on to closing statements now. Okay, and this time we will start with Ms. Lebster. You have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Well, as a former teacher and a department chair, I learned to make decisions. As a teacher and department chair, I learned to make decisions, data-driven decisions, but based on people. Because data's nothing without people. You have to have people who are engaged, willing, and knowledgeable, and supported. And those people on the front lines are the teachers and the parents. The students are obviously the center of it all. I want to be on the board because I want a chance to have a view of the big picture and the details that go into that big picture. Again, I'm a very invested parent. I see a lot from the inside. I know I can view things as a teacher, and sometimes I hear of a new program or something, and my first instinct is to think, what does that actually look like? It sounds really good. What does it actually look like? So I feel like I would bring that as a benefit to the board. Again, I taught students who were low achievers. I taught kids that were 9th graders who were reading at like a 5th grade level and had to try to catch them up. It was the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And it has given me an insight into, my own kids don't fit that bill, but it's given me some insight into the fact that we have to differentiate for every single kid. And I hope that I can bring that to the board.
Thank you. Mr. Mon.
Well, one of the things I would bring to the board, of course, is experience, but I haven't been on the board. I know what's going on, and I feel I could step in right away and can help the board continue to move forward on its goals. If I'm elected, my priorities would be, first of all, to work with staff to help close the achievement gap. I don't mean bringing the upper level down, bringing the bottom level up to where they need to be. In fact, bringing the district up as a whole, because even that data showed that from a district-wide, in some areas, we're not doing very well, and we need to improve that. So that would be one of my primary goals. The other goal is to continue, as I've always done in the past, to individuals, is to promote the district. Whenever I have an opportunity, I tell people how good West Ottawa is and why they should be sending their student or their child to West Ottawa. I would continue to work to keep the district on a stable financial basis. We've struggled with little or no increases for years. The board and the administrators have done a good job in keeping us above ground financially compared to what some of the other districts are. And we are in a good position right now, and we need to maintain that. And finally, I would struggle or strive to improve security within the school district, within the schools. Our children need to feel safe. We haven't had any real problems so far, but it only takes one incident to cause a problem, and we need to keep our children secure.
Thank you. Ms. Rutan.
I'd like to thank the league, first of all, for doing this forum. I think it's really valuable, and for all of you that came out to listen to me fall over my words for an hour and a half. It's really wonderful. And also, I think it's amazing what wonderful candidates we have. The people that have chosen to run, that's a wonderful, remarkable thing. And I think I love to hear their ideas tonight and their energy and their passion. And that's very inspiring. I've spent my life in education. I'm passionate about its importance in the lives of our students and our community. 4 years ago, I made a decision to run for the board because I was concerned about some serious issues and problems that I thought the district was facing. The early part of that term was probably one of the most challenging experiences I've ever had. I think, though, that we are making real progress and addressing many of our issues. We have many exciting new programs and initiatives in place. I think they're making a difference in the classroom, and I'm really eager to see us continue to move those forward. At the board level, we've made significant changes in how we function. We reorganized our committees. We now set measurable goals, and we carefully evaluate both ourselves and our superintendent based on the results of those measurements. We're trying to restore community involvement. We did that with the bond issue, and we'd like to continue that process. And we obviously, as we've heard tonight, we really need to continue our efforts to improve our communication about our district out to the rest of the community. I'm very eager to continue this work. In the past 28 years, our student population has changed dramatically, but each and every child is West Ottawa. He or she deserves the best education we can possibly give them, and I'm deeply, deeply committed to that effort.
Thank you.
I welcome your vote.
We don't mess around. Thank you. And lastly, Mr. Denave.
So I'd like to echo Lynn's thanks for putting this on. I think this is a great format. Also acknowledge the other candidates. I think as a community we're fortunate to have people who are interested in doing this. As you guys know, the salary to do this is exorbitant. So I think the fact that people want to do this and want to help is truly important. So really 3 points for me. The first one is, you've heard it here, but you read it in the papers, the number of students equals dollars. So as we can get the number of students in the district up, we can have more dollars to work with. I think having been on a board at one of the previous schools, I understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, and I think I can utilize some of that information to help bolster our message. And maybe early on, as opposed to our situation where it was high school before we started moving our children over, intercept that much sooner in the process and let them experience the West Ottawa District much earlier. I think that'll raise the number of students we have, therefore raising the number of dollars we have to work with, which will help our programs. The second thing is refining that message. We don't have a clear message. We have a great message, but it's not clear, it's not easy to disseminate to the masses. That's something I think we need to do. I believe I could help there. And lastly, my background is such that it would allow me to participate in a lot of the more difficult discussions and not shy away from an issue that was going to be a little bit more tenuous potentially. So I think some of those, we're fortunate. Doug said it earlier, we haven't had big issues, but potentially we could. And when those situations come up, we need people who are willing to deal with those things. Not every decision is 95-5. There's hard decisions too that are 48-52 that we have to make as well. And I think we need people who can make those decisions. So again, thanks for your attendance and appreciate being here.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, candidates. And thank you, Deborah, our timekeeper, and Ellen and Lynn. And thank you, audience. This forum has been recorded by our videographer, Steve Comrade. Thank you, Steve. And will be available for viewing on our website soon, www.lwvholland.org. We will be hosting another forum Wednesday for the Holland Public School Board members to be held in the Holland School Administration Building on 24th Street at the same time, 7 p.m. Lastly, please vote on November 8th. Polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. Tomorrow's the last day you can register. So, thank you very much.